Speak with you again, Julio. Today I'm looking forward to hearing your views on supply chain and procurement interface trends. And my first question is regarding procurement and supply chain. Right now, there's some controversy whether procurement should be part of the supply chain. Others say it should be a standalone function. So, what are your experiences and advice on this subject?
Well, thanks again for having me here, and I think it's a good question. It's a controversy in the market. In my view, it's not either or solution. It's more about how your business is structured and what are the key priorities in the business. I would say, first and foremost, it's important that supply chain and procurement work very closely together, independently on the organizational structure. Having said that, I see benefits in having procurement reporting directly, for example, for CEO level or for the board of the company, especially in two moments when you have a high need for rapid and significant cost cutting. So, for example, as we had in 2008, 2009, in the downturn of the economy, we had quite a number of organizations moving CPO directly reporting to CEO. As at the end of the day, these guys are managing, anywhere from 50 to 60, 80% of the cost of the company when you consider direct and indirect materials, including services from HR outsourcing, finance outsourcing, and so forth. Having said that, I think that's not the only reason. Cost cutting is not the only reason. I think there's also a different setup where you have procurement being so much, suppliers being so much into the core business of your business strategy. Then you have CPOs who are ultimately managing or leading directly the relationship with suppliers, reporting to the CEO. As they are, suppliers are as expected to add value to the business. So you can think about a new product development coming from suppliers who, most of the cases, most of the cases, they know more about, a specific technology. Let's call it a packaging technology, for example. These guys know more than the clients, the ones buying the goods. And then there's a high need for these guys to be working very closely with R&D at the top level in the business. Value generation cannot only be through R&D, but you can have new market ideas and the new go-to-market solutions. And even if you think about outsourcing parts of the business or keeping, extreme case, keeping only the really core marketing and sales development, all of that, and all the rest of that is then managed directly by the CPO or Chief Supply Chain Officer, who is leading this extended supply chain.
Well, procurement is often seen as a cost-cutting machine. But on the other hand, there's some significant expectations in terms of how to enable procurement to deliver top value to the business. So what's your advice on this?
Again, I don't think it's no. It builds on the previous question. It doesn't necessarily is an either or question. It's actually procurement leads are now expected to continue to do cost cutting because at the end they are responsible for the majority of the costs of the business. So there's no let's not forget that any movement that you're doing cost cutting. So for every 2% of the what you're doing cost reduction, you improve RONA return on net assets by 12%. So any marginal improvement you do in procurement to lead direct impact results to the business. So that's definitely is there since a long while and is going to be the primary responsibility of procurement, of cost cutting or cost reduction. What I see, what has been changed over the last few years is that more than cost cutting, cutting the meat, but also the fat, the meat and the bone. I see now procurement leaders more as the still reducing, optimizing costs, but balancing the right value equation. So it is about optimizing the costs by reducing it, but working cleverly and in partnership with suppliers, with the right suppliers at the right places, for the right categories, integrating the value chain from an end-to-end point of view, starting from logistics, which is something quite obvious, but going to R&D, development, finance, and even sometimes aligning strategies. Yeah, so back to the example of last question, you have more and more packaging suppliers being sitting now, has been one of the external parties being part of developing the business strategy, has a key input. Well, so if you think about to illustrate, to bring it to life, but if you think about mayonnaise, how you sell mayonnaise, at the end of the day, if you move the packaging technology, which represents sometimes 60 to 70% of the total procurement cost, it's a quite movement or is a quite improvement that you can do in cost, but also into value generation, consumer perspective. And that's what more and more procurement leads are being challenged and are dealing with. The other big theme here is about there are some conditions that you have to respect to do business. So sustainability, respecting environment, respecting societies, not using child labor. And then it's all about not cost cutting. Because if you go to some parts of the world in some type of suppliers, definitely you can have the lowest possible cost. The challenge is now is what's the optimum cost rather than minimum cost that you still respecting, society's environment and supporting and driving and financing the innovation and the business growth.
Well, more and more procurement directors are taking wider roles in the business outside their traditional procurement and supply chain scopes. So what do you think is happening here, and what are your views on this?
Well, I completely agree. I think procurement moved over the last few years from local to regional to global levels, and these guys, these procurement lead CPOs, are now managing big teams, virtual teams. Span of scope now typical is over 15, so you can think about a CPO managing 10 to 15 VPs or procurement directors, and each one of them then respectfully managing other 10 to 15 professionals. So it's actually big leadership roles. It's not similar to it's quite similar to big roles like in manufacturing. So these guys developed quite sharp and globalized leadership skills. Leading and developing teams on a global basis, of course, with challenges of time zones and times of cultural differences. And then because of that, in addition to that, they're also dealing with many suppliers from many parts of the world, and then being involved in many businesses, technologies, services, products. And at the end, I don't see necessarily these guys developing in procurement strategies. I see them getting the business strategy and developing strategies on how to best source and to best develop the sourcing solution for that specific category or service. And to do that, they really need to go through end-to-end understanding of the supplier's businesses, which is, the P&L, the balance sheet, the growth, the market environment, competition, laws and regulations. And then by doing that, they are, nearly on a day-to-day basis, analyzing different business models. So combining the big leadership roles with this holistic end-to-end understanding of the business, they are more and more prepared to lead parts of the business, or even becoming some in extreme cases becoming CPO or leading a significant portion of their business. And this is reality, in few industries now. I see this happening in electronics and consumer goods and pharmaceuticals as well. And I think this is a trend that is here to stay. And I think I've been working with recently with an insurance company, and they're looking for the first CPO to leverage volumes and optimize value generation. And as part, I was deeply involved in the hunting process, not as a hand hunting, but as a technical consultant in charge of the whole end-to-end program. And then at the end, the candidate that has been chosen, it was a guy who had no procurement previous experience, but he was a quite recognized business leader, and in order to drive this change. So it works also in the way around. If you are outside procurement, but you're looking for something really a leadership role that will leverage you into the next level of the business, then procurement might be the place to be.
Thanks. And can you provide a brief background of yourself?
Oh, sure. So I'm a management consultant since 9 years. I work for Spin Consulting with a small boutique consultants working worldwide with clients in consumer goods, anywhere from consumer goods to insurance to pharma to baby products. And Spain is not only in charge of designing change, but also we work very hardly and very closely in the implementation and delivering results which are sustainable over time, and the results that are also tangible. Prior to that, I worked 10 years in consumer goods industry for Unilever, and then I had many supply chain roles in various parts of the world. I'm now based in Munich, but as any consultant, I travel 2-3 weeks per month. And that's a bit about myself.
And thanks again for sharing.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Dustin. That's good stuff.